Hi, my name is Bethany Prigge, and I'm going to be talking about some theories of love and how they pertain to couple formation within early adulthood. First, we have Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of love, and this is that love can be understood in terms of three different components. First, there is intimacy, the next, passion, and thirdly, commitment. Intimacy is really explaining a feeling of closeness, emotional investment between two people, as well as a bonding that can develop. Second is passion, and that is, of course, the physical attraction and sexual arousal that develops. And thirdly, commitment or decision making. For short term, commitment is basically the decision that you love someone, and long term is deciding whether to stay in that loving relationship more long term, say in marriage or in a lifelong commitment. From his triangular theory comes 8 different types of love. The first one is called liking, and that describes just an intimate relationship, so really just a close friendship that two people have between each other. Second is infatuation, and that is just passion and is lacking in the other two components. So it's more like a little crush or nothing serious. Third is empty love, and that describes a just committed relationship that's really lacking in passion and closeness. And it's hard for it to be lasting because you're committed, but you're not very excited or in love with each other. Fourth is romantic love, and that describes one with just intimacy and passion. So that one's hard to be lasting too because you don't have that long-term commitment to each other, and it can be going from one romantic interest to the next. The fifth one is companionate love, and that is intimacy and commitment, but no passion or excitement in the relationship. So you might be great friends, you might be committed to each other and in love, but without that passion and exciting element in the relationship, it kind of might get boring and hard to maintain. Sixth is fatuous love, which is just one that has passion and commitment, and that's just that the two people have a lack of connection and intimacy between each other, which often happens a lot. Number 7 is consummate love, which is, of course, one containing intimacy, passion, and commitment, and this describes the ideal relationship. And then 8 is non-love. This one is missing all 3 components, and it really just is not meant to be. With this theory come different properties that show the 3 components, how they balance each other and function. So first, there's stability, which really stays relatively stable with levels of intimacy and commitment because those two, if you have them, you have them, and they're not gonna necessarily get unstable. But passion, attraction, and excitement seem to be more unsettling at times, and they need more work, and you need to really try and make that passion remain in the relationship over time. Second one is conscience controllability. That is that one has control and is aware of their feelings towards someone else and is commitment made, but is not as sure about the passion, not as conscious or controlled about how the passion element in the relationship. Thirdly, there's importance of experience. This one's very interesting. It shows that one does not always know how committed they are to the other person until an event or another person outside the relationship challenges this commitment. So say 2 people are getting serious and one of them has to move for their job and wants the other person to move with them. If they're sure they're ready to do that, they might say wow, I am committed, and have that realization. Or the opposite, being no, I never want to leave and go with you to this other place, I want to stay here. That might be oh, I'm not as committed as I thought. Next is the importance in short and long-term relationships. So for Short, passion usually plays a larger part in that relationship, and commitment is like barely even a component. But in long term, it's like the opposite. Relationships usually won't sustain without the and uh, commitment and intimacy levels that may not be as important to the short-term relationship. Next, we have commonality across loving relationships. And this is just the commitment to any relationships, children or spouse. And it shows that you have that commitment to your children and your spouse, but it's less important to, say, friendships beyond that, because you're not necessarily going to make decisions based on your friends. It's more about your family. And then passion is really only important in the romantic relationship. Another one is psychological involvement, and that is passion is highly dependent on that, and not so much for the other two components. And lastly, we have susceptibility to conscious awareness, and this fluctuates with intimacy and commitment, but is usually a more solid one when it comes to passion in the relationship. Another theory that's developed is love as a story. So people develop as an interaction between their personality and experience. So this theory helps with understanding the different ideals that people have concerning love. So different things influence a person's own perception of love over time. So maybe watching other people in relationship is definitely a main one. So as you're growing up, you see your parents, you see how they act with each other. It influences how you think of love and how you think of relationships. As well as good friends, you might see your best friend go into a serious relationship and you kind of base your own future ones off of that. Next is watching television, movies, as well as reading literature. You might be influenced, not even knowingly, about what you perceive as love, which is sometimes dangerous because obviously movies and TV shows and literature can really play things up, dramatize things, and create some bad expectations. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about relationship satisfaction. There was actually a questionnaire done at the University of Pennsylvania done by Scott Maddie and Lindsay Rogers, which questioned 55 college students who were already in romantic relationships. And the different questions that they were surveyed on showed how relationships were generally more satisfying and secure if true to Sternberg's 3 different components of love. And you can see, like earlier when I was talking about the different types that form, really the ones that contain all 3 elements are more solid and stable than, say, just a romantic love that just has passion and commitment. You don't really have the connection that's going to be lasting and help you secure a lifelong relationship. And then because there's obviously satisfaction, there's also a lot of dissatisfaction that can come from relationships. Of course, a relationship not containing all 3 elements can lead to serious dissatisfaction down the road. So if you lack passion but you have commitment and intimacy between each other, that relationship might get dull and you might not have that special bond between the two people, and it might just be like any other relationship in your life and kind of hard to maintain that. Also, dissatisfaction can come from romanticized images of love that you see, like I said earlier, in movies and books and in other people's lives. You can't base your own relationship off of the other people's because everyone's unique and special, and you can't just long for one thing because it's not going to happen and it'll create problems. Also, there's cultural fantasies here in the United States of finding your soulmate, which is so hard to really live off of because it's hard to know really that that's your soulmate. As well as relationships are just a hard thing and they need work, and people give up often, and it causes a lot of dissatisfaction and a lot of problems. And of course there's divorce, which is a terrible one, especially for children that are involved in the relationship. And that's my works cited, and that's everything. Thank you.